In a world where horrid stenches and piercing screams come not from the realms of fantasy, but from the nightmare of reality. Come two heroes, bonded by love and the kind of desperation only parents can know.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Behold, RPGs and Baby Makes Three, the greatest podcast in the history of all podcasts, by parents who have made a podcast about being gamers with a baby. Did I mention it's a podcast? Here are your hosts, Gretchen Hilmers and Rob Hessler.
And I am Rob Hessler, here with Gretchen Hilmers.
Yes, that is I. It's me.
This is episode 12. I did the math. This is the official podcast, episode 12. We've also, of course, done a bunch of bonus pods and all of that. But in episode 11, I wasn't sure what episode it was. But now I'm sure we're in episode 12. Official episode 12.
Well, I'm glad you wanted to know so much you went and counted.
Well, no, I didn't count, but I just kind of looked at it in the station, or in our archives, I guess you might say. So we have bonus pods, we have unboxings, we have...
Do we have more than one unboxing?
I think we just have one.
Yeah, we have
we have
unboxing.
unbox. No,
we have unbox. We got more sleep last night, but it might not sound like it.
We did get more sleep. Hey, I wanted to mention here that last episode, and I want to throw a big shout out to our listening audience, because on last episode, we begged. I mean, we really did. We begged for people to comment on our stuff, and somebody actually commented on one of our postings.
Another one?
It's the most recent episode, and I want to read this because I think it was really a insane comment. So this is in response to our episode 11. Again, this was Consent and a Cringy Comic by Colmes Comics. And so we got a response here from one of our frequent commenters, Dark Trent 182. And she commented on the comic, she said, "Those women in the last panel look like sex dolls, which is another creepy aspect of it." I kind of agree. I had two other issues of consent in the past in games. One of them in a vampire game where my character was graphically raped and tortured for 3 hours when I was not aware that I could ask for a fade to black as a player.
What?
I was 18 and hadn't had the game fully explained to me. The guy who ran the scene was a horrible creep who apparently was jealous I was dating another guy at the game. Needless to say, having had that experience has given me a lot more of a hair trigger when it comes to dubious consent in an RPG.
The absolute F.
That's so messed up, right? I mean, that is just horrifying. Let me finish, though, and we'll kind of discuss this. The other situation, which had a much better outcome, in my opinion, was in a Legends of the Five Rings game, when another player, I was in my mid-20s, he was 18, was trying to use a die roll in order to get my character to I can't remember if it was a seduction roll or for my character to kiss him, and I was not having it. I verbally tore into him, and he learned not to pull that business with me or any other female PC in the game. When it's a game where specific themes are going to push stuff, make sure to be open and clear about what it is. Don't surprise people with it. I don't care if it, quote, ruins the surprise. People need to know what they're getting into. I know from personal experience that you run a game where you're upfront about things, which I appreciate it, but other GMs might not do so.
What?
That vampire, a 3-hour rape scene?
No way.
I mean...
No effing way.
And I responded to the comment, of course, that that's the absolute worst possible scenario that I can imagine. I just don't even understand. That's so horrifying. I almost have no words. I just hope that by people like us talking about this in podcasts and others, lots of people are talking about these topics now, that stuff just gets eliminated from the game.
Yeah.
At all.
I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but don't do that. Don't do that.
Seriously, just don't do that.
Do that.
I mean, it's okay, and like
no,
there is really no excuse for it. And I hear, okay, well, vampire is a dark game, whatever. No.
No.
I mean, I guess if everybody in the game beforehand consented to that kind of thing, and that was what everybody was into at that particular table, okay, but I think that I don't imagine a lot of tables that exist out there where that is the case. And no. I'm just not feeling that.
No, I can't. There are so many different ways that I want to say no, many of which involve 4-letter words. And it is never ducking.
No, it's never ducking.
No.
Well, I'm really sorry that happened to you, Dark Trent, and gosh, wow,
horrifying.
That's terrible. And
whoever that DM is, they need their.
Yeah, they lose their DMing card,
and they need some psychological help.
They sure do. Anyway, we appreciate you writing in, and of course, if you want to send us a message, you can send us one at our rpgsandbabymakes3@gmail.com account. Or you can do like Dark Trent 1 and you 2 did.
Maybe one day you'll give me the password again.
I don't know what it is, so no, I won't. And you can also post on the YouTube as well at Dark Trent.
I should change the password so then I will know what it is and I can share it with us.
I actually think that's probably smart.
Well, I don't know why.
I don't know why I did either. Let's roll for initiative.
They see me rolling. Some people are born lucky. Let's roll.
Roll for initiative.
So, Week in Gaming, it's not been a lot since last time we talked, but I think I played some. So I played in my AD&D 2nd edition game that I play, Krakenheim, which is a ice barbarian game, which I love.
You do.
I love that game. And it was fun. It was interesting. So we got basically hit by this sort of wave of feeble mind by this princess character that's in this sort of Japanese garden, I guess you might say, that we were exploring. And it sent us into this really strange kind of flashback scene for each of our characters. And so I learned a lot about my character, including that he is being hunted by Baphomet, the devil or demon or whatever it is. I think it's a devil. I think Baphomet's a devil.
Yeah, Baphomet is awesome.
Baphomet. So it's interesting. Today on
Though
this...
the guy who runs your game is British, so he probably says Baphomet.
Baphomet. I don't know how he says it, but I'm sure it sounds better than when I say it.
I mean, us Americans are just kind of, hey y'all, we're gonna play Baphomet today.
What I thought was interesting though is that today we're going to talk about a segment that I pulled from the book of Dice and Men, the story of Dungeons and Dragons and the people who play it by David Ewalt. And another part of that book, they talk about the Satanic Panic and how D&D became this sort of evil thing, So,
man.
But I thought it was interesting because how far we've come since then. So, Satanic Panic in the 80s, and now literally the devil is chasing my character in this game that I'm playing, which was really kind of...
Every generation seems to have this, right?
It's funny because I was thinking about this too, is I think that there's always a character or somebody in popular culture or something in popular culture that everybody freaks out about.
Remember when Marilyn Manson
That was exactly the example I was going to give. For our generation,
for Zennials.
And now Marilyn Manson's... Well, first of all, he's a creeper joke now. he's a rapist or something like that. So, whatever. I don't know all the details about that, but bad news there. He got written off of the
Salem show.
No, it was the...
American Gods.
American Gods. He was on American Gods, and he was, killed
He
off
was
on that
on the
show.
Salem show.
Oh, he was on Salem. Okay.
I think that's the name of the show. Witches.
Oh, some witches. Yeah, it's interesting because there's always somebody, right? There's always something, but I can't think. Is there like a something that pushes the buttons of the religious folk now that you can think of? Not that there's anything wrong with religion. If you're into religion and that's your thing, totally fine. But is there something out there that you can think of?
I think this is a good segue into what we'll be talking about, because I think in many ways Donald Trump was viewed as the devil.
But that's interesting, though, because it was kind of on the other side.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Then why don't we... And
that's a good segue, right?
Yeah, we're going to do our segue. We're going to just do one segment today, and this is a snippet again that we're going to be talking about here. So why don't we go ahead and get into Moans and Groans?
The beef of the show.
The beef. Yeah, it's been a while. The beef of the show. Here we go.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not gonna do what everyone thinks I'm gonna do. Flip out, man.
Look, I've got a major problem, okay? Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
You have no power over me. Groans and moans.
So the beef is tenderized, and we are ready for some moans and groans and moans here on this episode. And so last episode we talked a little bit about how I had recently read Of Dice and Men, The Story of Dungeons and Dragons and the People Who Play It by David M. Ewalt, a writer for Forbes magazine. And it's a bit of a history, of course. It came out in 1993, August 20th, 1993.
Oh, happy
no,
birthday.
That's not right. 2013, and not 1993. Why do I want to say 90s? It was in 2013 that it came out. So it's a history, and it gets into all of the details there. And we talked a little bit about that book at the end of last episode. But I wanted to pull out one particular quote from the book because I thought it was really interesting, and I thought it relates to now. So I'm going to read this quote, and it goes as such. Author and blogger Cory Doctorow found that games helped him make friends among a different kind of tribe. Quote, I grew up in this very politically lefty household, he says. Normally when I encountered people from the far right, they'd be shouting, get a job, or go back to Russia, you hippies, when we were out demonstrating. But when I was 11 or 12 years old, I started going to game stores, and there were a ton of military and ex-military guys playing D&D, end quote. As he became a regular at Toronto's gaming hotspots, Doctorow got to see that his political opponents weren't just one-dimensional villains. Quote, these were people who were wearing badges that said, nuke 'em all, let God sort 'em out, and better dead than red. Serious weirdo ultra-right-wing nut jobs, but they were nevertheless part of the same thing as me. A whole social group kind of appeared out of nowhere. It was really very interesting. Humans play games for lots of reasons, but the fact that they so easily bring people together must be near the top of the list. I thought this was a really good quote because it stood out to me because there's so much division between gamers right now. And I'm fascinated by that. I mean, for me, it doesn't really matter.
In society in general.
In society in general, but it's bleeding into the games, for sure. There is a sort of a culture war amongst gamers. And in a way, I think that it kind of does fall along ideological lines.
Well, I mean, we just had the discussion about Ernie Gygax being a bigot. And looking at the comic from last week's episode, I think there is a major divide, and some of that divide seems to be happening on a generational basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, so there are folks, and I think 5th edition has inspired a lot of this. A lot of younger gamers are coming, and this particular generation is very concerned.
Get off my lawn!
Well,
Sorry.
no, the new generation.
I know, but you make me feel old.
But the new generation is very concerned with gender issues and equality and all of that. And, we can debate on whether or not people think that that's right or not. It's not really making a stance there, but there is a a concern with that. And then there's within, like, let's just take Dungeons and Dragons, for example. Like the all evil races and things like orcs and drow elves and things like that, which we've discussed a bit here on the show before about our feelings about those kind of things. We actually did a special episode about the article Dungeons, Dragons, and Diversity from Wired Magazine as well, where we talked a little bit about these topics.
Which bit itself in the butt with its photo spread.
I know, which was really funny. And which, of course, for those who aren't aware, this particular issue of Wired and this article, Dungeons, Dragons, and Diversity, had a woman, like basically a sexy woman, a sexy black woman in it. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, just the fact that they're talking about diversity and equality, and then it has a stereotypical spread of a half-naked woman.
Yeah, basically. Exactly.
Yeah, it was like, what, did you not read the article before deciding the photo shoot? Like,
well,
and that photo shoot had to be approved by multiple people on multiple levels.
I know. Well, we don't need to get back into all of that, but and I do encourage people to go and check out that particular discussion that we had, and that article was, raised a lot of eyebrows and it brought up a lot of discussion. But I think that there are people that are like, this issue doesn't exist. There is no problem. Keep your hands off of my game. And then there are people that are saying, well, I want my game to have representation of all of these different types of people, gender, races, ideological differences, things like that. And also people want certain things eliminated, like no slavery in the games, for example. That might be a kind of a particular issue. And to be really culturally aware as well. Like I'm thinking of the Curse of Strahd Revamped, which was revamped. When they did that, they edited out some of the wording concerning the culture of the Vistani. And they're a sort of a traveling group that is akin to the Roma, or what we're typically called gypsies, which is now known to be a stereotypical term. The term gypsy is a racist term. And so...
Yes, by the way, don't say you've been gypped.
Yeah.
That's...
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a racial stereotype, right? So they did some corrections there or some changes there to be more sensitive. I am of the belief that there is a certain political divide which is simultaneously happening, playing itself out in the role-playing table. So I kind of feel, and maybe I'm wrong about this, that the people who are on the keep your hands off of my game, we want to have gypsies, and we want to have orcs and drow elves, and we want to have all like evil races, and we want to have that. I kind of feel like most of them are sort of on one side of the political spectrum, and then on the other side, those who want gender fluidity, want inclusion, and want to eliminate races like orcs or eliminate evil races, things like that, are on the other side of the ideological
And then you have
spectrum.
people in the middle.
Then you have people in the middle. And I think we're in the middle.
I'm pretty in the middle.
I think we're kind of in the middle.
I think there are certain topics that I don't believe that everything that's black is evil. I don't like that stereotype. I don't think that women should be excluded from classes like fighter classes. But for me, I think it's kind of hard to, if you don't remember history, you're doomed to repeat it, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I believe that if played in a proper manner, I don't know that we should omit slavery. I don't think there should be any glamorized slavery. I think that a DM should be able to show, if agreed upon in the setting at the table, that slavery is horrifying and it is horrible. And I think that there are some people out there who have this twisted sense of slavery that, slaves were happy, they were taken care of, and no, it's awful. And I think in some ways it's showing that at a gaming table that it is horrific and it should not be. I don't know. I think sometimes the table can be a learning table. But I know that some DMs and some players don't want to have to be tasked with that.
Well, okay. But I think one of the counter arguments to this kind of thinking, let me just kind of give an example here. People will say, well, drow elves aren't representative of black people. Orcs are not representative of black people. They're the bad guys. I'm playing the good guy. We kill the bad guys. It's that simple, right? That's the sort of argument that it's not like slavers in a game are not good guys. They're the ones you kill. Like there's a super module from first edition AD&D called Against the Slave Lords. And in that you basically kill slave lords and there's slavery, but the point of it is that you are killing them and taking them on, right? So I think that one of the arguments on one side is that these things don't actually mean what people are saying that they mean. And I think when I hear that argument, I hear it doesn't mean that to you. It doesn't mean that to you. To those people say, well, yeah, drow elves are not black people to them. Orcs are not black people to them. But the stereotypes as they've been represented for those who are people of color might find that actually it does feel like it's an attack on them. And in those cases, I'm kind of like, well, you see, like neither one in those cases, it's not that either one of those people is wrong. It's just that there's like an ideological clash there between those two groups.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't every description and visual of drow, it's someone with black skin?
Yeah, well, they're a black-skinned race. I think to people who are saying that they don't equate it with black humans that actually exist, is that they're black-skinned elves who live underground and they're a fantasy race. They're not representative of
Yeah, but it's easy
us.
for someone to say when they haven't been attacked their whole lives for their skin color.
That's exactly my point. And so that's why I kind of say I'm kind of in the middle, because I can sort of understand both sides of that argument, you know?
Right. I mean, we can only understand to a degree because we are not people of color. So we don't know how that truly psychologically impacts someone. So we can understand to a degree.
I think the problem is that I think the people that the argument, or why this is such an issue now, is because people feel like someone is going to take away their game.
Yeah, but they're making the pie bigger.
I would argue.
They keep playing their old editions and how they want to play with their friends. Totally fine. But who says that they can come in and tell someone else how to play their game and their edition?
Well, I think the idea is that new material is coming out, and that new material for a game, Dungeons and Dragons, like we're just talking about Dungeons and Dragons, for example, is a game that they love and care about, and that new material, I think for some of those folks, it feels like it's leaving them behind. It's...
All right. Go ahead, sorry.
I mean, let's just imagine if it's, you know, these, and a lot of these folks who are on this one side of the argument are the kind of players who have been playing for 20, 30, 40 years. And so I understand, I mean, let me just tell you, it's just my personal opinion. I'm kind of with you. I sort of feel like, let's just be inclusive. Let's just make these changes. It doesn't impact me in the least. I'm running AD&D 2nd edition. I just eliminate them. Like, I mean, the Knights of Solamnia are men and women. There's no rule on, like, I don't have that kind of stuff, you know? Like, to me, there's gender fluidity. There's, like, I don't have any of those. I think my game feels inclusive. But the point is that I don't care. I'm playing AD&D 2nd edition, which hasn't put out anything new in 21 years. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, I like 5th edition, actually. And there's going to be a 6th edition. I mean...
Right. So,
They're gonna make a game, and maybe I won't like it. And if I don't like it, I won't buy the stuff, and I don't really care. It's not gonna ruin my enjoyment of playing D&D.
But and then to loop this back to the original quote, there is somewhat of a, or not somewhat, there is a political divide in this, and I think it also comes down to this idea of, we all kind of stay in our little groups. Like second edition people tend to play second edition, third edition, But I guess I think the bigger question is how do you play with someone at the table who is wearing a patch that says blow them all, nuke them, and let God sort it out? I think we've also touched upon this when we did the Gygax podcast. We had two very conservative men at our table for a while, and it was kind of like a family dinner. We didn't discuss politics. Mm-hmm. But I know that was always kind of there because the majority of the table is liberal leaning or middle of the road, and we just knew not to talk about certain things, I guess.
But I mean, that's the thing, though, is it was fine, though.
Yeah, no,
right?
I loved playing with, I enjoyed it, and those people.
Well, so I almost want to, make that, I guess that's kind of the point that I ultimately want to come around on, is, we've had this philosophical discussion now about, what is going on behind the scenes, but I sort of feel like, by that same token, when we came to the table, it wasn't really an issue. And I almost feel like that's kind of what is great about gaming. And, maybe that's healthier. Maybe we're not that different, really, when you sit down and you play at a table and you work together and you have great interactions.
Well, see, here's the interesting thing. I believe that a lot of racism happens because people are not mingling together and learning how similar we are. But there's also some people I just don't want to be around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I think it also comes down to this: is it a teaching table, or is it are we gonna teach each other these things, or is it we get together because we are philosophically on a similar level? But I think it's also important for us to come together with a commonality that shows we're not so different. But again, I don't want to play with someone who wants to take away my rights,
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard thing, right? Is there mutual respect there? I mean, this is such an interesting topic to me because, I think the same thing too. So something came up. There's a bar in our town. And I'm not going to name the bar, but you mentioned it the other day about how there's this bar in our town it's kind of a cool, interesting bar that's owned by people of a particular political persuasion.
Yes. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and
because we were also talking about that other place was owned by someone who was sexist versus,
yes,
this political leaning. Okay.
So, how do you feel about you learn that information? You learn that this bar is owned by somebody who has very different political views than you.
And it's a bar I really wanted to check out.
So, but that's the point. Are you not going to go now?
Probably not.
Don't you think it's super unhealthy for us as a society, though, to say we are going to, just because somebody disagrees with they have a different way of living or a different belief system, that we are going to then sort of boycott them?
Yeah, but these are people who probably donate to other people who want to eradicate my friends, kick them out of the country, make sure that I don't have choices about myself. I'm not gonna say I really want this cool, awesome tropical drink, take my money, and by the way, let's donate to someone who's gonna, try to take my brown-skinned friends and throw them out of the country. Like, I just can't do it. It's like the same reason I don't eat at Chick-fil-A.
I don't even know how to make a counter argument to that, because I am very, especially on social issues, I'm very liberal.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what if it was, they're thinking, oh, well, I don't want to hang around somebody who believes that vaccines should be mandated, and...
Cool, okay.
Okay. But, I mean, like, I can't make the argument because I don't really know what the philosophy is.
Now, let's say it was someone who was like, okay, I believe that there should be more strict controls on welfare, which is a conservative lean.
Right.
Okay, that's cool. I think, okay, I could easily play with someone like that at my table. I could do that. But we're talking about a political divide that is actively tearing families apart and destroying lives. And this is a parental podcast. We have a child. Mm-hmm. I just can't. And our child wears like a rainbow unity shirt. Yes. I mean, so like. Yes. But the thought of having to flee a situation to survive and then be separated from my child kills me. So, like, I think there is a certain level of political divide that I can handle and that I'm willing to do. But at a certain point, I'm just like, I can't. Like, the world has gone crazy over the last decade. Like, it has been growing, and it has gotten to a point where when my friends are scared for their lives, I am no longer okay with it. So, I don't know. I think this is a nice thought that a game can bring us together, but I think that's up until a point.
Wow, that's tough. I mean, I don't really know the answer. I mean, I'm just like thinking about this, and this is so tough. Like, my brain is like, man, what is the answer here? Like, how would I feel? Like, do I want to... Oh, man, this is a really hard one. It's just... it's a tough one.
It is tough.
Well, I'm curious what other people have to say. I mean, I'm curious what other people's stories are. If you've played with people at your table who have dramatically views than you do on political things or other things, and how you navigate that. I mean, I'd love to hear from you. So email us rpgsandbabymakes3@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Or you can, of course, just leave a comment in the YouTube chat. Oh, yeah, and you should also, of course, subscribe and leave 5-star reviews and all that. But let's finish up this segment. I know.
And come bring us dinner, too, while you're at it.
Yeah, please order me a pizza. Okay, so let's go ahead and get out of here. We'll finish up the show. Well, that was interesting.
We've got opinions.
We have opinions. Well, our last few shows have been pretty deep.
We're going to lose some listeners, and we're going to gain some listeners.
I don't know what's happening. I hope we don't lose too many, because we don't have a lot. Anyway, I kind of want to mention a couple of things here that we didn't really talk about at the beginning of the show, but I thought it'd be fun to end on. You recently read an entire RPG book, and you're thinking about maybe using it as your first GMing experience.
Well, when we're talking about an entire RPG book, we're talking about like 12 pages.
A zine,
and it was for Camp
it was 32
Flying Moose.
pages.
Yes, it's a zine called Camp Flying Moose for Girls of All Kinds, an RPG for 2 to 5 players by Alicia Furness. And it was a whopping 31 pages, and it is basically, it's about these girls, or those identifying as girls, or those who are asexual, are at camp, and scenarios happen, and it can be both lighthearted or dark, and it's how to sort them out. And there's a couple of small campaigns in here, and it just seems small enough and quaint enough for me to test it out on, probably two people.
Very small group.
Yeah, like I just, I'm a little nervous. Okay.
I'm very excited for you, though. First of all, Alicia posted this up in the RPG Zines Facebook group, and I saw it. I pointed it out to Gretchen. I was like, hey, so I ended up buying it because after mentioning it to you, you said, oh, that sounds cool. So
yeah.
I ended up picking it up, and she's very responsive, and so I'm really excited to see what this game is all about.
Is she responsive? You know what? We should see if she'll be on the show.
Yeah, maybe. Well, let's play it first, and then...
Yeah, all right.
And then, it'd be kind of cool, especially if it was your first GMing opportunity. But
made me nervous. Okay.
No, but I mean, we've been taking a look at a lot of zine games and sort of minimalist games.
A lot of amazing game designers out there.
God, there's so many. I'm just...
It's mind-boggling.
It is, like when all your thoughts get trapped in in a bottle.
Mind-boggling, isn't it?
Did you just say mind-boggling?
Yeah, mind-boggling. When things are so crazy, it gets your thoughts all trapped like in a bottle.
That's gonna date us too.
But yeah, that's cool. I'm really looking forward to trying them out. I wanted to mention as well that I've been reading this book that I've really been enjoying. It's called Night of the Black Rose by James Lauder.
Yes, but you told me about some a really disturbing scene.
Oh, so it's super dark. It's a Ravenloft book, and it came out in 91, and it is kind of a crossover between Dragonlance and Ravenloft. It's Lord Soth, the character from the Dragonlance world, gets pulled into Ravenloft, and it goes through he runs into Strahd, of course, which is a major character in the Ravenloft setting, and there are things that happen, and it's really effed up.
Yeah, I know, but you're saying this, and I haven't read it yet, but the dude on the cover, I just can't help but think about the Black Knight in Monty Python.
He does look a little bit like the Black Knight in Monty Python.
You're telling me these disturbing things, and then I just see him kind of limping along with, no arms, saying he'll
he's super twisted. Although at one point, somebody does, I think, threaten to eat his arms, and then I kind of thought about that again. But anyway, I mean, there's torture and all that. It's pretty rough and it's pretty dark. But I have to admit that it really has me interested in Ravenloft. We play Ravenloft with Amanda, but I have a sort of a different feel, a different thought about what Ravenloft is for me.
Amanda went super dark in that dream sequence.
Oh, God, it was terrible dark.
Yeah, your character
horrifying.
was eating my character.
I wouldn't mind her going even darker, to be honest with you, when we're playing the Ravenloft game. But it's really interesting, and I've really been kind of enjoying it, and I like the kind of crossover nature of it. And, for those who are out there who, are newer players, playing 5e and stuff, they haven't released a lot of D&D books in this era, but there are so many books that came out in the D&D world way back when, and some of them are really good. I mean, not all of them are good, but man, they had a massive fantasy book empire.
Novels?
Yeah, novels.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the novels. There's Ravenloft, there's Dark Sun, there's Spelljammer, there's, of course, a ton of Dragonlance.
Fantasy writing. I remember my pack of high school, middle school friends, one of them, her parents, I just remember this room full of bookshelves, full of books. Many of them were fantasy based.
Yeah.
There's
still plenty of fantasy writing happening, but I feel like at that period, TSR, and then, pretty much it was TSR, Wizards of the Coast started to phase it out, but TSR was hugely into publishing novels based in the game worlds. And so, I think there was about 200 books that came out for Dragonlance alone.
How many of those have you read?
What, in the last year? I don't know how many of them I've read, but I've read over 20.
It's a lot.
I've read over 20 in the last year because I've just really been into it again. But it's cool. And I would just suggest if you're interested, check those books out because they're not only are they kind of fun and interesting, and not all of them are good. I'm going to tell you, they were putting out a lot, and some of it's trash. There's no doubt about it.
It's kind of like your dad jokes. You just keep firing them off until some of them stick.
That's true. That is true. But some of them are really good, and it's kind of also a neat time capsule into D&D because it's sort of a picture of that period of gaming, and it's really neat. So, anyway, let's get on out of here. Gretch, thanks for joining me again this week.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
And we will catch you soon. We've got lots of stuff to talk about, and we'll continue with this newer, shorter, single topic focus. And upcoming, I want to do a short episode on the heroic challenges that were put out by Lore Smith, which is, or maybe it's Lore Smith, but with a Y.
It's probably Smith, right?
It's probably Smith. Lore Smith. It's probably not Smythe.
No.
No, it's not Smythe. It's Smith. It's definitely Smith. But Lore Smith.
Lore Smythe.
Lore Smythe did this heroic challenges decks, and they're this interesting sort of thing. I ended up backing it on Kickstarter, and I have these cards, and I haven't had a chance to use them yet, but I'm going to be using them in the next Dragonlance session that we have. So I want to kind of play them out, see how they work, and then maybe we'll talk about them. We'll do a little short episode product review of it, because it's really interesting to me. So look forward to that. But let's get out of here, Gretch. I want some dinner. I'm hungry.
I need some snacky snacks.
Yeah, let's go get some snacky snacks. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Take care, y'all.
RPGs and Baby Makes 3 is a production of Gretchen and Rob sitting on their couch. Email the show at rpgsandbabymakes3@gmail.com. You can find more episodes on Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes, as well as on our free Patreon page at patreon.com/RPGs and Baby Makes 3.